rolling and tumbling.
The last thing we said yesterday was that the ultimate level of the Chasidecha Yiverchucha, the final crown that he wears, was indicated by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, how he did not even have to command the rain to come down, as did his father-in-law, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, that he had to command the river to split. He just said, Pnimiyus HaTorah, and the rain fell by itself. What's the concept there? So we said that there's basically three levels. There's tefillah, there's bracha, and then there's Rabbi Shimon. Right? Tefillah means you can reach a very high place, but the fact is that you're asking for something and you feel a lack, means that there's a disconnect from godliness and you. You feel like godliness has to come down from its place and enter your place. That's a feeling of plurality, division. So that's clearly not accessing the true state of oneness. When it comes to bracha, the fact that you feel that you can command a bracha means the godliness is inside of you and you can even share it. So certainly you're united with godliness. The only problem is the fact you have to command the bracha means the river standing there not doing the will of God, and the tzaddik has the will of God inside of him and he can make the river do the will of God, but the fact that he has to make it do the will means that it's presently disconnected. What's outside of him is disconnected. So even the inyan of a bracha, that you can command the world around you to do as God wants, which is a high level, that you are found with pure godliness, but you still feel like inside the world there's a disconnect from Hashem, that you have to rejoin it. And so Rabbi Shimon, since everything is truly one, and how do you know everything is truly one? At that level of Panimius Atik, which is basically Chasidus, which he was given out. So therefore, the world automatically has no different will than the will of the tzaddik and the will of Hashem. And therefore, as soon as it came into the presence of Rabbi Shimon, without him even addressing it, it automatically conformed and was at one with the will of the tzaddik, without him having to address it or command it. So that's the ultimate level of Chasidech Yiverchucha, that the Chasid, this level of giving even to the rich, this level of Pnimiyus Atik, it can be drawn down into the level of Malchus, and that's really the idea that Malchus realizes in itself that it's already Elokus. Okay?
That's Malchus of Malchus?
Yes, exactly. V'zeu pada b'shalom nafshi, and this is what it ultimately means, going back to the original discourse, that pada b'shalom nafshi, my soul is redeemed in peace, b'shalom dafka. Everyone knows that this is what the Alter Rebbe was saying, this verse in Tehillim, the moment that he was released. So dafka b'shalom, b'hainu, what does it mean? B'shalom shapadia, hi b'tachlis ha-shalom v'ashlemus. It means that his redemption was the ultimate state of wholeness and peace. Shlo nishar shum min nagid klal, which means what? How do you have a complete, peaceful redemption? Is that there doesn't remain even a shred of the opponent. Right? As it's known that the Russians basically, well, David HaMelech for sure, but the Russians, they sent him out with the red carpet. He basically convinced them that Hasidus was godly. And they completely removed, not only did they remove their antagonism, they gave him a letter that said he and his children forever after him are from the most honorable citizens of Russia. Yeah, to the point that
they always had a power to the government. Right?
Yeah, to the point that even later on, when the future Rebbes got in trouble with the government, they laid out this card. They said, "What are you talking about? We're gold over here."
Even the Friedecker, but that was from a different time.
Even the Friedecker, we tried to use it. But the communists said we ourselves are not from the noble Russians. So they said basically all the rules of the old kingdom don't work around here anymore. But he said, you can't arrest me. My Alter Zayde was the Alter Rebbe. You gave him a badge of honor for all of his children. Anyway, there remained no menagid klal. Lo kamoshaya b'nesiyas ha'aron de Moshe. Not like it was when the Aaron traveled with Moshe Rabbeinu. Shnemar al zeh kuma Hashem v'yafutz oivecha v'yanusa misanecha mipanecha. Right? Because over there it said, Rise up, Hashem, and scatter your enemies. That since the refinement took place in a way of war, and it wasn't a way of peace, therefore, even though he won the war and they did overcome the enemy, it was not padiyah b'shalom. It was not a redemption with ultimate peace, where no opponent remained, but rather there remained the existence of the enemy and the existence of the foe. They were just in a status of being fled and running away. But they were scattered and fled, but they were still there. And even, this is higher than the level of Shlomo HaMelech. That even though when it came to Shlomo
had to command, or he just said?
Shlomo Mustama was in the state of having to command. I mean, in other words, he didn't really command, but
Okay, he wasn't that level.
we're saying that was his...
He had to mention it.
Right.
He didn't show it before.
In other words, there was still a concept of a world that in his mind and in the mind of the world themselves felt separate and disconnected from him. Because as we said, Shlomo was only able to access and bring to him those aspects of the world that came from Yesod of Malchus, which meant what? They already had some kind of an interest, they had a little bit of light in them, even if the light went out a little bit, but they had some interest in them that if you would inspire them, he would bring them back.
But not the Egyptian one, right?
Right. So in other words, mean to say that what? He didn't completely eliminate the menagid inside. Why? Because the menagid was the one that didn't have any interest in going to see him. And the opponent. Those who didn't have any interest in seeing him, he left them in their state.
Mm-hmm.
So what did Shlomo do? He refined only those sparks that had some access to light, some relevancy to light. So, but in the state of Rabbi Shimon, the state of true shalom, right, that even the sparks that went completely dark, in other words, they had no more shaykhs to light. They darkened to the point that you couldn't inspire them anymore to bring out their light. Also, they became included into Kedusha.
Uh-huh.
This is Mashiach's inyan, because he brought Panimius Atik, which is the essence, which makes it realize that every single thing, its whole existence is godliness, as we've been saying, right? Not only did he get to the point that all the sparks, even that darkened and were extinguished, were able to be drawn to Kedusha, but even Gam HaNivra, even the created being itself, Hanifal Atzmo, we went into this at length, there's something called the Koach HaPoel Benifal, the power of the doer in the deed. It's like the soul that's in the body, the light that's in the vessel, right? And what we're saying there is that the light that's in the vessel could be extinguished. And that's like sort of like a Rasha Gamor. He has a soul, but it's gone out. So he's not going to be enticed by Shlomo Melech to come to Yerushalayim. So what we're saying here is twofold. That not only is Mashiach able to turn the soul of the Rasha around, but even the body, as it were. Even the Nifal, even the entity which is not even Shaykh to light. In other words, there's light that goes out. Okay, it's not arousable, but it's still Shaykh. It once was light. But the goof, the Kli, it's not even Shaykh to light. It was never light. It came from a different material, Lamaila. And nonetheless, he'll able to even draw that to Kedusha. All will be betachlis his achdus. Everything will be ultimately one. But kamo shiel asi. That's how it's going to be in the future.
What you were saying yesterday, that we have to, they're getting more refined, so we all have to be mashat. I mean, to receive it, to get to purify. I read today actually that Rabbi was saying the same thing, that unless we do our work, really we won't be the receptacle for bringing it. But now you're saying that it's going to zap them. It's going to be like without doing the work. It seems like.
I'm saying that when this light comes, then there's no place left to hide for the enemy, right? But we have to be responsible for bringing this light. That's what the Rebbe is saying. It was Mashiach, as we said yesterday, will bring it to himself, and he'll make that light available. Just like we were saying that Avram Avinu, before he came into the world, there was a certain lack of even the ability was not even there. In other words, not only was it lacking the avoda, but the ability to do the avoda was not even available yet before Avram Avinu. Because what he brought to the world, Avram Avinu, was not just that he brought light to the world. That's amazing. He brought light to the world. But more than that he brought to the world, which is really the most significant thing, which it didn't have before. The world didn't have any realization that there was such a thing called godly light beyond the world, right? So they weren't looking for it. That's the point. That what he really brought to the world more than anything was that once he came to the world, he made everybody else realize that there's something that they're missing. That's the key. Because they now it came to their and like the analogy that the Rabbi Rashab gave that we spoke about was a child who's waddling in his own filth, a little baby, I'm saying, who doesn't know better than to just sit in his own filth, right? As soon as he gets to a certain level of recognition, like he gets old enough, mature enough, something happens, the Avram Avinu comes into his life. It says actually Avram Avinu recognized his creator when he was 3, right? Mistama, that's kind of right around the time when a child realizes he wants, maybe before that, maybe 2, maybe 1.5, I don't know, depending on the kid, but whatever, there's a certain recognition that comes to a person that says, wait a second, I smell. Wait a second, all the other people around me, they're not going like this, they have a different plan. So the child feels a lack in himself, right? Which makes him want to change. And it makes him want to go for it. So this is what Avram did to the world. This is what Chassidus did to the world. And it was before Chassidus came to the world, people didn't even want to try to do that avodah because they didn't realize anything was missing. They felt they were shalem, they were whole. So comes, the tzaddik does it in himself. He brings this light into the world. Not so much that he gives it to everybody and they're all finished and done. But he brings to them the realization that there's something more to achieve that they didn't even imagine was there before, and they're not satisfied anymore with how they were, right? And this is just Papashtus, but it says Mashiach is going to come to bring tzaddikim to tshuva. What kind of a thing is that? How do you do that? They're tzaddikim. How can they do tshuva? Literally, how does that work? Anybody?
Well, there's always something missing.
People think that.
What's that?
There's always something missing. A person can reflect. I'm not the greatest, but when you go to the cave or somewhere, there's something missing. Anywhere you are, any person's going to think, wow, I don't have it all. There must be something I'm missing in my life.
Yeah, you'd think so, because we're not tzaddikim, so we for sure feel we feel that there's plenty we could fix. But there was a breed of there's generations upon generations of tzaddikim that literally felt that they were, and they had every reason to seemingly feel that way. They were perfect. And it was a Beinani is already perfect. A Beinani is someone who wins the war every single time against the Yetzer Hara. But even a Beinani could say, "Oy, if only I had a situation where I didn't even have the taiva to go against Hashem." Okay, I always win. So he must feel pretty great about himself. He never loses. But he says, man, you know what? I'm missing something. I wish I didn't even have the desire. And then he comes a tzaddik. And guess what? He doesn't even have the desire. He goes through the world not even having a havamina to do anything except for the will of Hashem. There was generations upon generations that people who reached that level truly believed they were perfect. And they were. So what does Mashiach bring to the table? He brings that even they're going to do tshuva. Because why? Because ultimately Hashem is infinite. And even if you're all in the realm of good, there's infinite levels of good you can achieve. And you can this little obvious thing to us, this is what the whole of Chassidus is based on, bringing a light which shows just how insignificant everything is. Starting to understand the Seder Ishtalshlus. And now even the Atzilus is really, in the end of the day, it's nothing. It's after the Tzimtzum, it's the bottom of the Kav, and the Kav itself is nothing. Because inside the Orein Sof, you have all these different levels which are shayach to the Ishtalshlus, which is beyond the Ishtalshlus. And even if you want to get to the Orein Sof itself, what is it really? It's just a ray of the essence, which is nothing. In other words, starting to think like this, having the tools to even think like this, makes a person realize that they can never be perfect. What are they? They're Bichlal in the created body to begin with. So this feeling of lack, even of tzaddikim, is what Chassidus basically put into the world. It enables Bali Tshuva tzaddikim to do tshuva. So, how did you start this question? I forget where we were. But you were saying that it sounds like he's just going to do it for us, from what we're saying here. And yet, at the same time, you're reading yesterday, we spoke yesterday, and he even said in the Maimer, it's not like that. It's a matter of us doing it. So what does the Mashiach do for us, in fact? He brings it, and with bringing it, he makes us realize for the first time that we have to bring it. So that ultimately, but what is that really? In other words, if you look at it a little bit clearer, what's he really bringing? He's bringing it all. He's not doing our work for us. But the fact that he puts inside of us a feeling like we've got to achieve a state in ourselves that every single aspect of our existence has to be elokus, that's fantastic. That's wondrous. In other words, at the end of the day, we're just physical beings in flesh and blood. We're just like animals. And yet he's able to bring something to the world that makes us want to completely, go away from any extra piece of sugar, a piece of cake, a foreign glance, a foreign thought, that this is something I feel like is lacking for me. Like, I don't think it's normal for me to just walk down the street and not be engrossed in an idea of Torah. I feel that's a lack. That's crazy. How did that happen to me? It's really because of what he did. The truth is, I now have to bring myself to fill that lack and become like a completely transformed person. But I would never even have taken those steps or thought that there was something for me to do had he not do it. So it's a partnership.
Is there a final level of tzaddik you can reach in Teshuvah? Or is it never?
I think there is actually. I think this level of chassid is a complete transformation. In other words, what do we say that what the chassid was? He had transformed. In other words, we're talking about trying to transform and being in the process of transforming. He had transformed his natural self into a godly self. So I don't know. And again, in order to do that, you have to draw down Panimius Atik. There really is nothing higher than Panimius Atik. It's the very essence of Hashem. So while every moment in their life is, as long as they're still alive in the process of the world has not come to its full completion yet, so it looks like they're not completely done their job. Like the Rabbi has a famous statement in his final mimer, Ata Tetzaveh, he says even if a tzaddik is perfect, and he by himself has the full level of revelation, if there's one pushed off corner in the world which does not yet experience God,
So if the world is totally.
that means what he's experiencing is also not the perfection of God, because when God's true essence comes out, there won't be one corner in the world that doesn't experience it. So I guess there is a level there is a tzaddik who's in the process of I guess having perfected himself, but I guess it hasn't happened yet. It could happen, but it seems like when it happens to the tzaddik, it's going to happen to all of us simultaneously, which really means like he's going to finish his job.
So what level did Shimon Bar Yochai get to?
He was at the highest level, in other words, but
The world wasn't perfected.
okay, so but in other words,
He was in a cave.
he brought the. No. He didn't look. He wasn't Mashiach, but he had the Torah of Mashiach. He started the process essentially of Mashiach coming to the world, right? Now that I think about it,
The time factor, I guess it wasn't just time.
I'm just thinking for a second. It says that there's 2,000 years of chaos, of tohu, 2,000 years of Torah, and then 2,000 years of Yemos Mashiach. So Shimon Bar Yochai was right around that time, was he? Was he not? I don't know. 2,000 years of tohu ended with Abraham.
We're already 1,900 years into that.
1,000 years
Day
of-
Mashiach.
So it's basically right around his time, right? Because
Yeah.
that's amazing. So that's what he was. He began like a new phase of the world feeling like it was lacking something, that it wanted Mashiach. Before that, maybe you could say Avram got to the point that it wanted Torah, and it longed for Torah, the perfection of Torah. But they didn't even know what there's such a thing as panemius of Torah, that okay, we could perfect the world. But the fact that we could perfect the world to go to a state where it goes out of being a world, and it's like pure godliness, I don't even think they knew what that was. They didn't feel a lack in that. So Shimon Bar Yochai, okay, he didn't finish the job. But it actually says that until we'll understand his book, Mashiach won't come. Which means he really did finish the job. Which is we didn't finish understanding his book yet. That's what Hasidus came to do. But so therefore, I guess it makes sense. He's the model for this. But no, until mamash the whole thing is done, I guess you can't say anyone's finished their job. Inside here, so we're saying that second line from the bottom. V'zeu ma shekasu ki berabim hayu imadi. So after we get through saying that he's going to bring the whole world to a state of total oneness, it says, Para b'shalom nafshi mikravli ki berabim hayu imadi, because the many were with me. What does it mean the many were with me? Shagam b'chinas rabim.
We're with or are with me?
We're with me. In Pashtus, it's talking about David HaMelech.
Okay.
He was fighting against his son Avshalom, who wanted to be the king, but all of Avshalom's own people really secretly wanted to be with David. The many were with him. But what does it mean in our context? Who are the Rabbim? Who are these many that are with Mashiach, or with us, trying to do this work of Mashiach? Elu shenimtzayim b'chinas reshus harabim. Those are the people who are found in what we call the public thoroughfare. We call the reshus harabim. There's the reshus hayachid, which is basically kedusha, and there's the reshus harabim, the shuk, which is the reshus of klippa, where it's a multiplicity. People don't see the oneness. Kamayim Razal ala pasik nase lashon rabim, as the pasuk says in Torah, nase adam b'tzalmeinu kudmuseinu. We find in Parshas Bereshis, let's make man in our image, in our likeness, right? Lashon rabim. So it says kasuv. It says nase lashon rabim kasuv. So it says Moshe Rabbeinu right away went to Hashem and he said, what are you saying? Let's make man in our image. This is bad news. They're going to say that there's many gods. They're not going to say it's one Reshus, but it's Reshus Harabim. There's many Reshus. Right? It's the Reshus of the many. There's many gods. So he said, so what is God's response to him?
Let him do it so they can get confused, so they'll be...
He said, in the middle of this whole Torah, what I'm telling everyone, the whole world that I'm one, basically, right? Right, let's, and whoever wants to make a mistake, let him make a mistake.
So the whole group of people sure have. They use that one.
But the Rebbe goes into a different place. I've seen that he said, the language is, whoever mistakes makes a mistake, like as though like it says, whoever wants to make a mistake, let them make a mistake. In other words, you have to be such an idiot. No one would fall for that. People who are troublemakers, who want to make a mistake, they'll take that line and they'll try and make a mistake, which means to begin with, it's unmistakable. In other words, you couldn't actually make that mistake by accident. You have to want to make that mistake. But nonetheless, there's plenty of people who are going against Hashem and who are looking for every reason to find an alibi, that they have rights even according to Torah, so they'll take this pasuk. So this is called the Rabbim, Lashon Rabbim. It's those who want to make a mistake, literally the aggressors against Hashem. Hayu imadi, the Rabbim hayu imadi. By Mashiach, by David, it says...
But why would you give your enemy materials?
Because it's ultimately for their detriment. In other words, it's like Hashem made a certain level of malchus, and even furthermore of like Gashmias, as we say if you're following the whole story, where they're not in the realm of experienced godliness. He made such a klippa, right, that they are being enlivened with a certain energy that they want to go against Hashem. Yeah. Right? It's like the rebelliousness inside of us, mamish. So in other words, they want to make a mistake. They'll find it anywhere. What's that?
Teenager in us.
Yeah. He didn't take away our free will, and on the contrary, he loaded them up with a horrible Yetzer Hara that wants to go against Hashem. So this is the God. So this is what it means. That these are called the Rabbim, the Reshus HaRabbim, and nonetheless even they were Imadi. Hayu Imadi. Even they will become completely joined. How does that ever happen? Because there's going to be such a light brought that it's the essential light that even they, whatever you are, you're going to realize that all there is Elokus. And that's why the words, the many were with me, who nasinas tam al para b'shalom. It's a reason, and if you learn the verse simply, it's a reason for the words para b'shalom nafshi. It's where it says, my soul is redeemed in peace because the many were with me. Shapadia b'shalom, because what does that mean? Because being redeemed in shalom is dafka al yidei zeh shagam b'chinas rabim, can only truly happen when that rebellious teenager, and much worse, is with you. Because even if you'll silence him, even if you'll throw him in jail, even if you'll, so to speak, kill him, right? His progeny will come back worse, right? The only way to really be in peace is if he becomes with you. Lo ra kanitzotzos to kedusha, and not just the spark of holiness that is on your side. That's not going to be enough to have true peace. Ki im gam elu shem b'chinas ram, but even the level of those sparks that extinguished, and even worse, they also have to be imadi. They also have to be with me, or ultimately there's not really peace. So we said Shlomo Melech, he had a certain level of peace. He brought peace to the world for 40 years, but he went away because there was little crumbs lying around that he never really had with him. And where do we see ultimately the real symbol is from this verse itself. Why did David say Para b'shalom nafshi? He's the only one who could say this and mean it. My soul was redeemed in total peace because the enemies were on my side. All of Absalom's people really wanted David to win, right? So this is he's also David Malka Mashiach. He had basically the power of Mashiach. So if you recall, going back to the beginning of this mimer, we said there was a Chazal that said the drasha on this verse, Para b'shalom nashi mikravli ki berabim hayu imadi, also was referring to being osek b'Torah, gemus chasadim, and davening with a minyan. Because we said, and they learned it out because the Para b'shalom, Torah is called shalom, and gemus chasadim, giving, is called shalom, and davening with a minyan is called the Rabbim were with me, the many were with me, davening with a minyan. So we said that not only is the idea of the simple meaning of the verse that my soul is redeemed in peace goes on Chassidus, because Chassidus is called peace, but also all these things must be connected with Chassidus redeeming the world, because all the drashas on the same pasuk basically are connected to each other. So also somehow learning Torah and giving and davening with a minyan, we said, is also an aspect of this process. So he's going back and sort of concluding here that through being osek b'Torah, gemus chasadim, and tefillah b'tzibur, t'inyan ha'osek b'Torah hu panimius ha'Torah. What does it mean ha'osek b'Torah? It doesn't say ha'lomed b'Torah, right? But ha'osek b'Torah, it's a different level. It means you're like toiling in a very deep way. That's called panimius ha'Torah. It means the secrets of the Torah dafka, which is called the Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life. Lo ken nigla the Torah shenislav shebe'etz hadas tov v'ra. Not nigla, which invests itself into the tree of knowledge, good and bad. Right? That's called the nigla of Torah. Not so much that there's parts of the Tanya which discuss this. Not so much that the nigla is actually from the knowledge of good and bad. It's not. It's also from the tree of life. All the Torah is from the tree of life. But the difference is that the nigla of Torah, the Gemara, the Mishnah, the Halacha, it invests itself into the world, and the world is made up of good and bad. And that type of Torah discusses crime, discusses evil, discusses worldliness, discusses gashmias. So that tree of life of the Torah invests itself into the klippas noga, which is called the tree of good and evil. Whereas Chassidus, Kabbalah, it doesn't go down that far. Kabbalah and Chassidus don't talk about the world. They talk about beyond the world. So it's the pure tree of life, pre-investiture into topics of physicality. So he says this is what it means, osek b'Torah. When you're truly occupied in Torah at the deepest level, it means you're going to the true Torah beyond its occupation with the world.
It's not so much like toil. It's like Jacob and Israel, the two different names. Right? Jacob had a toil, and the name Israel is like children, your inheritance.
Okay, but in general, why is Chassidus compared to olive oil? Because it's harder to get it out. You have to find the secrets. You have to toil much more.
But a different way, I think.
I mean, you and I, but the people who actually brought it to the table. In other words, they had to toil much more to find it, right? In other words, in order to get Chassidus to come to the world, you have to sit in jail for 53 days and almost get killed. In other words, there was the ones who brought it out. In order to find these secrets in the Torah, you have to look much deeper into the Torah than you have to.
Right.
So in that, I think that's what he means. However, once you've toiled, right, now learning the Pnimius Torah refines the way, not in a way of war. Not even the way of war that the king has to go out of his place and go into the place of the enemy, which we said was like Moshe bringing the ark into the Midbar, right? Which is we called that nigla of Torah. Again, he didn't even have to fight with them. Once he went into the enemy's territory, the enemy subdued themselves to him without a fight. That was with Amalek. But when he went into the desert, and the snakes and scorpions and the mountains and the terrain, that was the enemy. They all just flattened before him, which shows you what? It was also a way of peace to a certain degree, but he had to at least go into the realm of the enemy. He didn't have to fight with them. So Nigla too, we said in a previous class, Nigla of Torah, you don't have to go and fight with the world to refine it. You just speak about it in the realm of Torah and it becomes refined, but still you have to go into the domain of the enemy. You have to talk about the world. But Hasidus, not even that. It's not with the way of war at all. L'chein, in other words, you talk about something which you don't even go into the domain of the enemy. You talk about spirituality, and the world automatically gets refined. L'chein al-yedei zeh na'aseh padiyah b'shalom, and therefore you completely remove any vestige of opposition. You don't go into their terrain. You don't even recognize their existence. So therefore, it becomes a padiyah b'shalom, a total peaceful redemption. She means batel hametzias ha'od, the whole existence of the enemy disappears. So that's Torah, because he wanted to say how all these things are shaykh to the Indian of Hasidus. So when he says,
you need to go through Nigla, you can't go right to Hasidus.
you can go right to Hasidus, and you must. The Rabbi said, there used to be rules, you have to go 40 years. You should immediately go right to Hasidus, but when you get to Hasidus, you'll realize that there's no such thing as skipping Gemara. I mean, it makes you realize that Kol HaTorah Kula is Elokus Kipshuto. But for a person to think, I'm going to learn Gemara and then I'm going to learn Hasidus, which is the way of the ancient mystics for thousands of years, already from the times of the Arizal, he put a big brakes to that and said that's it's finished. Already in these generations, mutter u'mitzvah galos zos ha'chochma. It's permissible and a requirement to reveal this wisdom. And there are, sadly, many people today who still speak like that. I'm not going to learn Kabbalah. I haven't mastered Shas. I can't tell you how many sichos of the Rebbe just like makes that position laughable. I wish I had it in me off the cuff, and also we had the time for it. But it's suffice to say that, trust me when I tell you, the Rebbe was so unbelievably opposed to that type of thinking.
Express books.
That a person should wait for any reason to learn Hasidus, because he said, on the contrary, learning Hasidus will only strengthen your learning in Nigla. No one's going to learn Hasidus at the expense of learning the rest of the Torah. It doesn't work like that. All it does is inspire you to be one with God in everything you do and learn the whole Torah. So to be very careful about that. And more so, he said that if there's any rabbis, God forbid, who are going to come along and tell a person to wait and hold off on learning Pnimius HaTorah, he said their sin is almost impossible to bear. Because why? Because they're rabbis, and chas v'chalila, some unknowing person might actually listen to them because they carry a title. So he says the whole sin goes on them. Any rabbi is going to stand up and tell you, wait, don't learn Pnimius HaTorah, you're not ready for it yet. He said there's unbearable sin upon their shoulders, because God forbid someone might actually listen to them.
I'm sure there's a lot of them that say that.
God forbid someone might actually listen to them. This is the Rebbe's position. This is Mamash time. This is the Torah which Mamash shows everybody that God is one. We didn't have access to it before, so.
Express books.
So this, you want to say something, Ariel?
I mean, he basically sent this point. He said that everybody, it used to be people were against Hasidus. Now nobody's against Hasidus. Everybody says it's good. Now the difference is people say this exact thing. Oh, first you should learn Mishnah and learn Gemara, and then you're ready.
Yeah. So this is the Indian of Osek B'Torah, because he said all these three things, Osek B'Torah, Gurus Chasadim, and Tefillah V'Tzibur, they're also connected with Pada B'Shalom Nafshi. So we've had Osek B'Torah for many years. So he says, no, Osek means Pnimius HaTorah. That's why all of a sudden you can get to a state of Pada B'Shalom. So too Gurus Chasadim. Gurus Chasadim Mamshicha Pnimius Keser. What do we say? The whole Maimon was about Gurus Chasadim. The Indian of Chesed is the idea of giving even to the rich, the ability to even give to the rich. So specifically the mitzvah of Gilus Chasadim is all about giving to the rich. It's totally tapping into this notion of Padiyah B'Shalom, of bringing down Panimius of Keser, the Panimius of Atik. So he's saying that these three things that are just happen to be in a Chazal, hidden inside of this pasuk, they're all mamish Hasidic ideas which are connected with the total removal of Klippa to the point that it's Shalom. Va'ad b'chin is malchus de malchus, as we said, that it has the effect, ability to go all the way to malchus, this level of chesed. Ekeinu gam b'tefillah b'tzibur, shetefillah b'tzibur, hikamo tefillah d'aseret yimei tshuva. And he says, why tefillah b'tzibur, when it says anyone who Osek B'Torah gives Gemilus Chasadim, Dafka, it doesn't say tzedakah, but chesed, and davens with the tzibur. Why is davening with the tzibur connected with this Indian of Pnimius HaTorah and Padiyah B'Shalom and having no more enemies? Because davening dafka with a minyan is compared to the tefillah of the 10 days of tshuva. Kamayim Razal, where we see that the sage just said on the pasuk Dirshu Hashem behimatzoy, that it says seek Hashem when He can be found, right? It says when can it be found? Dafka in the Asara Yomim bein Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, right? And so what do you mean? He can be found all the time? No. In other words, yeah, if you're davening with a minion, he can be found all the time. But if you're davening by yourself, right? Then even if you're davening by yourself during the 10 days of tshuva, it's considered as if you're davening with a minion, because there's a special empowering in your soul that you are like a minion on the whole Aseret Tshuva, to the point that your prayers are always answered. Kan liyachi, kan litzibur, as it says here, we're outside of during the 10 days of tshuva, even an individual is like a tzibur, and outside the 10 days of tshuva, you have to actually be with the tzibur. So what do we see from here? Davening with the tzibur is like the quality of the 10 days of tshuva. But the tefillah b'tzibur, who amshachas pnimis hakeser. Now we already got through saying what's the meaning of davening with the tzibur. The whole idea of the 10 days of tshuva and so forth is getting the Rabbim hayu imadi, right? The many were with me means you'd be able to turn the darkness of the Rishus HaRabbim into light. He doesn't go into this too much. He just says basically, trust me when I tell you that the 10 days of tshuva, they have this power of drawing down the Pnimius HaKeser. Okay, he doesn't really say much about it, but just that. There's actually a whole sicha that the Rebbe said after this mimer to explain some questions that he didn't ultimately conclude in the mimer. I don't think we're going to do it, but there's a few little pieces left, and I think that's one of them. How is davening with the tzibur exactly tapping into the Hasidic level there? Al pizeh tuvan hashayches the parab shalom legeulas Rabbeinu Azaki. Now we can finally understand the connection of parab shalom with the Alter Rebbe's release. She'inyanahu afatzas mayanos chutza. It's all about spreading the wellsprings. The inyan afatzas mayanos chutza, spreading the wellsprings to the outside. Hu shagam b'chinas malchus sheba malchus, means that even in the lowest level malchus of malchus, kamoshi b'chinas chutza. And not only that, but as Malchus of Malchus is in a state of Chutza, which means the furthest it can go, nonetheless, Yumshach L'sham HaMayanus, even to there, the Mayan will be drawn, the wellspring will be drawn. And this is a classic concept of what that means. Lo rak HaMayim Chayim Animshachim HaMayanus, Ela HaMayanus Atzmam. Not only the fresh living waters from the Mayan will reach the deepest and furthest places, Malchus of Malchus, at the level of Chutza. But it says, K'sheyafutza Mayan Osecha Chutza, that when the Mayan itself, which is an impossibility, will reach to the outside world, not just the river from the Mayan, but the actual wellspring will somehow find itself in the place of in the foreign place, which is a wonder. In other words, seemingly the Mayan is stuck in its own place.
Miriam's well, moving around.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Right, that the Mayan will find itself in the place of the Chutza. Hamshachas Pnimius HaKeser. So what does that mean? How does that work? How do you actually do that? Because where's the Mayan really drawing from? We said Pnimius of Keser. And what's the Pnimius of Keser? Is the essence. So the essence is truly found in every place. In other words, you can't go far enough away where that source of life, which is the source of all the waters, isn't actually right there in that place. In other words, we don't have to get godliness to be drawn down from some foreign place. What kind of silliness is that? What are we made out of if not godliness? So that's what I mean. The Mayan, the source of the waters, the person will realize that it's them themselves. The material of themselves, it's being produced by Hashem. And that's what means the whole Chassidus is based on this line. That your Mayan will be in the Chutza. It means that the Chutza itself will realize that he's the source of godliness. That's why when this will happen, it will automatically, the result of that will be Asimar. The master will come. Da Malka Mashiach. As it's known that this statement, when is the master coming, was asked by the Baal Shem Tov. He asked Mashiach, and he said, and the answer of when Mashiach is going to come is all based on this notion that the Chutza will realize that it's the very place of the Mayan. So that's why Mashiach's answer was, when the wellsprings will reach outside, I'm there I am. In other words, when the Malchus of Malchus realizes that there is nothing but Elokus, that equals Mashiach. It's literally Mashiach's statement. Because what does it mean to spread the well springs outward? It really means to draw down the Panimius of Atik to the level of Malchus. It's this whole process we're saying about transforming your natural powers into godly powers. And all those things are accomplished by Osek B'Torah, Panimius HaTorah, Gmulus Chasadim, giving Chesed, and Mispali Matzibor, Asher Oidezeh Padani, Liu Levanai Mi Ben HaUmos. And the Midrash goes on to say that through these three things, which are basically the whole Hasidic doctrine in one little Midrash, you redeem me and my children from amongst the Goyim. Asher Az Yeves Ruach HaToma Avi Min HaAretz. Then, of course, there'll be no more Tuma in the world, because the Tuma itself will transform. Realize even the existence of Tuma comes from Kedusha. It will disappear. Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz b'yom hahu yeh Hashem echad u'shmo echad. Hashem will be the king of the world, and he will be one, and his name will be one. Shkoyach. Finished a little early, but we finished. Okay. Shkoyach. So ksiv v'chsim tov l'shana matuka. Tov Masuka in Limud Chasidis and Darkei Chasidis. Everybody, Yud Tet Kislev.
Wow, we're that close, so it's true, yeah.
The Shabbos is.
I heard there was in the Tanakh 10 dreams and 9 happened in Kislev.
Yeah, it's the month of dreams. Every month in the Sefer Yetzirah it has a certain chush, has a like Adar is the month of laughter. So Kislev is the month of dreams, and therefore we find in the Parsha. All the parshas are about dreams, right? Lavan dreamed, Yosef dreamed, Paro dreamed, Yaakov dreamed. What's that?
What about Tevat? What's Tevat's month?
Tevat's month is what is it? I don't remember. Check it out. Grab the Sefer Yetzirah. It's all in there.
Am I allowed to learn this by Yitzhak? Because like someone said I'm not supposed to learn it. Like I started reading it, but
you could learn it.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
I'm allowed?
Yeah. If you can understand a word in there, you're good,
Then
good to go.
Then it said that it said like this sentence that like if what you seek is like mysterious, don't seek for it.
Right, so that's it.